Welcome everybody to our Pronto session, which it's brand new and I know a lot of you have questions. And Matt is our Pronto representative, customer service rep, and he is here to show you how to use Pronto and get you on the ground running. He's got a couple assistance from Pronto to help. And then we also have a few SMC early adopters of Pronto that will be chiming in as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Christine, did you want to, we're recording now. That's right. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. So excited to be here. This is one of the largest trainings I've done this semester so far. This is exciting. So thank you so much for having me. A quick introduction for myself. My name is Matt Baugh. I am the customer success manager assigned to Santa Monica College. And I've been with Pronto for just over 2 years. Before that, I previously was at Canvas for over 7 years. So coming up on my 10th year of educational technology, 10 years within EdTech. So I love working in the EdTech sphere, and I'm excited to show you Pronto. I'm excited to show you all how it works within Canvas, what are like secret sauces, how it can help you engage with your students better. And so what this training is really going to focus on is, the way I like to run my trainings is I'm going to focus a lot on the features of Pronto, how it works, and how it's been able to work with use cases, and how we've seen it be able to increase that engagement with students through those features. And it's a very simple tool, but it has a very strong impact because of its simplicity. I am joined with my colleague, Winston Wilkie. Winston, if you want to say hi really quick and introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Winston. I am Matt's colleague. I'll be working the chat today, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop in there and ask away. And if I can't answer it, I'll pass it over to Matt.
Yeah, Winston is our newest addition to the CSM team, and he's just great. We love working with Winston, and he's new to the edutech world, and so he's dipping his toes into the pond. So also just a few things I want to point out really quick. We shared inside of the chat a self-enrollment code for a Canvas course. I'm going to be periodically refreshing on my database side to get you into Pronto as quickly as we can, because we want to push that sync forward so we can get you into Pronto and show you in real time how you can start using it and start kind of get your hands on it. We did invite a few champions to this session. I don't remember their names off the top of my head. I'm running between trainings all day today, so I apologize. But if you've been using Pronto and have been using it, one of our champions, if you wouldn't mind chiming in and maybe introducing yourself and how you've been using Pronto, that'd be awesome. Really quick.
I think it would be best to start with Sang, since he is the one that brought Pronto to our campus. So Sang.
Yeah, because let me also say, if assigned class will be observed.
Sorry?
I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I'll turn it over to Sang. Hi, Sang.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. So I actually, our department, I'm the chair of, if you don't know me, I'm the chair of the history department. And our department actually kind of, we started using Pronto about 3 semesters ago. We were thankfully given sort of a sort of trial basis to try it out, and we have about half of our faculty in our department using it now. We're trying to get more, trying to convince our colleagues to use it more. We have found it to be, I personally have found it to be extremely useful. It's much easier for me to communicate with my students. It's much faster and quicker, and because Pronto is so well integrated into Canvas, it makes the use of Pronto really easy. There's also a standalone app, mobile app that you can put onto your phone, and it's essentially just like a messaging app that is connected into your Canvas courses. It uses all of the sort of GIFs and all of the sort of features that you would have in a messaging app. And the students really have taken to it really quickly, at least my students have. And I actually did not know about Pronto until I was told by another colleague of mine who is also here, George. And he's actually the person who introduced it to me, which is kind of where I started to then go, well, we should really try to push this through, especially with all the online courses we have. I know that there were some faculty members in our department that were kind of a little bit worried and concerned about sort of like, will students have access to you all the time? And I think, like email or anything else, you just have to set up some boundaries about when they can, expect a response. But I also find that I am able to respond much quicker, that other students in the class will respond to questions, particularly about assignment deadlines and other things. And then you can just respond with like a GIF or a thumbs up or whatever you want. And after you read it, and that lets everyone know that the information is correct. It's a really great tool. We did in our department a preliminary survey after we used it for the first semester. In about the 6 sections we tried it out at first, and found that over 90%, it was like 97% or something like that of our students really loved it. Over 90% wanted the feature in other courses at SMC. So we actually shared that information with Pronto, with the folks at Pronto, and by the way, their customer service support is fantastic. You guys do an excellent job. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to take up too much time. So.
Thank you so much, Zane. I love hearing that. I'll definitely pass that along to our support team. They work very hard. So thank you so much for that feedback. By the way, if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to throw them into the chat. Winston will be in the chat answering any questions as we move along. And so just if there's anything there, I'll be sure to pause at certain points and be able to answer those questions. Was there anybody else here that was using the product or using Pronto that wanted to share their experience? I think it was just saying, and I think there was someone else.
I think George, he should share as well, because he's our point DE mentor for Pronto as well. So it'll be great if he could say a few words.
Hey, everyone. I'm very glad to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation. I heard about Pronto from Glendale Community College, the other campus that I teach for. And so they were sort of implementing early adoptions there. And I was very happy to bring it over to Santa Monica. So thankfully Sang was able to, kind of make that happen. I do love Pronto a lot because unlike the traditional, let's say just Canvas or emailing situation that we have for our courses, Pronto gives us the ability to sort of connect with our students on a more personal basis, because as all of you probably know from, family members, right, students, cell phones are sort of the, attachment to the right hand, right? Like everyone uses their cell phones immensely now. And so for many of my students, I found that it sort of takes the pressure off from them having to like write a formalized email instead of just quickly, shooting a sort of a text-based, group message to like the class or myself and sort of asking a sort of impromptu question. So it really kind of gave that extra dynamic for the classroom and made things a little bit more personal. And then I would sort of open up a little bit more, from my end. So let's say, I don't know, like post a picture of my desktop setup and be like, hey guys, I'm, grading. Hopefully you're all having a great weekend, etc. They'll give me, thumbs up, likes, some gifts, so it's a very sort of fun, interactive, classroom environment instead of, kind of having more of a, standard, system via Canvas, I suppose. So it's been a fantastic experience from my end as well. And Pronto continues to be a blessing in my life, just because a lot of times many of the students sort of answer their own questions in the group chat. So let's say I'm out and about and I'm grocery shopping, and they, I don't know, somebody's asked the question in the class like, oh, hey, where do I find the syllabus? When is this quiz due, et cetera. Someone else can sort of chime in. So I have found, I don't know the exact statistics on it, but it's probably immensely, just reduce the amount of emails that I get and questions that I get on a semesterly basis, because there's so much more interaction from sort of peer to peer in the classroom itself. So it has been, wonderful. And, I look forward to continue seeing what Pronto sort of, does next in their coming updates. And thank you so much for the platform. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks, George. I want to just ask you a real quick question, because you're an early user coming from Glendale. What would you say, what is the difference between seeing Pronto, what it is today, and from when you were first using it back in the day in Glendale? Would you say that the product's grown a bit? Has it been easier to use? What's your experience? I'm just curious.
From the early adoption days, I know that there has been quite a few updates and sort of software tweaks here and there and new features. So one of the largest ones that I appreciated, especially as an adjunct, is because I do teach on multiple campuses. The early version was I had to either stay logged into SMC or log out and then log back into GCC, and I would not get updates for either campus. And so just like Sang said, the IT team is very responsive and amazing. And so I sort of voiced a recommendation to perhaps do some sort of mixed shared campus support. And now we have it. So now I get updates from both. I'm sort of logged into both campuses. It's very helpful, very useful, very easy to switch between the two. Other tweaks that they sort of implemented as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it has been a nice, consistent progress. And any recommendation I typically would voice or perhaps a concern met wholeheartedly. And then the IT team definitely says, give us a little bit of time, we'll work on it, and then it does come to fruition. So thank you guys very much for that. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, thanks.
Can I add one more thing? I just noticed also in the chat, someone said that their students like to use Discord. And the nice thing about Pronto, at least for me, is in terms of students' privacy. It is part of your Canvas, like it is integrated into your Canvas section, like shells. So no other students can really access it. So Pronto is sort of is for your class only. So there are those sort of issues you want to think about when you start using, other apps that are outside of sort of, the ecosystem that we have. The other thing that I really like about Pronto, and I want to mention this and then I'll stop, is that I do a lot of group work in my courses. And so when you create groups within Canvas, it creates copies those groups and creates Pronto groups. So the students then it automatically creates those groups for them within Pronto. So they have a little Pronto group where they can message each other as group members. So that's a really great feature as well.
Okay. John had a question.
Actually, just a comment. I spent about an hour yesterday, I guess, watching your videos and chasing some of the how-to links that came in the big email that we got. And I just wanted to point out, since I tried to install Pronto in my course shell for this semester, and ran into some stumbling blocks, and the answer I found was on some other college's user pages, but is that unless the class is published, you will not see Pronto show up. So once I figured that out, I kind of had a sigh of relief and moved on.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's a really good point, and I'll go ahead and reiterate that. So the way right now, Pronto will not show up inside your course shells until your courses are published. So you probably won't see it until day 1 or 2 before your courses start. So I'm going to go ahead and now share with you the my presentation for you, just to kind of give you a quick overview of what Pronto is. But thank you so much, Sang. So thank you so much, George. Really appreciate your comment on just your experience with Pronto. It really kind of builds some credibility, and I hope your colleagues understand that this is going to be something that's going to help drive really good student engagement, as well as be able to make your lives easier. As you heard from George, this is going to help take a lot of emails out of your inbox, really. So what is Pronto? It's a communication tool that lives and breathes and also integrates with Canvas. We are cross-platform, so we have a mobile app that's very easy to use, and a lot of times that's how we see a lot of the adoption from the student side, because they're doing a lot of the learning on the go already, and they're using their mobile apps to communicate with their friends and families. Why not also with their peers and also their instructors? And they're also doing a lot of their learning on the go with the Canvas mobile apps as well. We have a live or asynchronous chat. So what that means is that you can have those chats within a synchronous environment as well as asynchronous as well, being able to communicate whenever it's convenient for you or in real time. We have an announcements feature. We'll also talk about how you can use our app mentions to be able to get a lot of great information out very quickly and timely to your students. We have a file, and Pronto is really great for file storage and sharing. We don't have file limits, unlike Canvas, where if you share a file, it does go into your file storage, right? If you hit that cap, you have to clear space out, or you have to sometimes go to customer support at Canvas to be able to get an extension on that. So we don't ever cap those file limits on those groups. Group video chat, we'll talk about how easy it is to use our group video chat feature, very similar to what we have with Zoom here. But we'll talk about how it's a little bit different and why people like using Pronto and when they use it. Of course, text, multimedia, GIFs, and reactions. That might sound really silly to some of you, but really this is a tool for today's generation. And this is how today's generation communicates. And also it really helps those GIFs, those emojis, those things like that, that really helps humanize that online learning experience, right? This is how those emojis, they portray a lot of emotion. They add context to what they're trying to say. And so that's just a really fun way also to engage with your students too. As George mentioned before, being able to share a GIF whenever somebody's frustrated or thinks something funny, that sort of thing. It really humanizes that online learning experience. We have a task manager as well. If we have time, we'll be able to get around to that and be able to show you how easy that is to use. And we see that get used a lot with working one-on-one with your students and how to help them get their grades up and things like that, setting tasks, as well as in group atmospheres, be able to work with their students and things like that. And of course, we're scalable, reliable, and compliant. I mentioned that students are using Discord and things like that. The thing with that is that with the problem with using Discord and WhatsApp and those other tools, that data is no longer secure. It's no longer housed with yours, with your institution, right? With Pronto, because we have transcripts, because we are FERPA compliant, you can now be safely assured that that data is yours and it's secured and your students are safe. So that's the nice thing about not going to those open source tools or those tools like social media, where you don't have that oversight anymore. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this presentation. Oh, come on. There we go. And we're actually going to go to your instance. I usually demo out of our test instance, but I've been syncing with, if you've been adding yourself or self-enrolling with this course that we have, you should be able to log in and we can actually do this demo in real time. This is actually a lot of fun. This is the second time I've done this and it's been a really good experience. So if you actually log into Canvas and you've enrolled in that course, and it might take a moment for it to show up, but if you refresh your browser, you should now see Pronto in the bottom left-hand corner in your global navigation menu. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and this is what you're going to see the first time that you'll open it up. This box is going to appear, and this is Pronto, right? It's going to ask you to continue and accept terms and services like any other LTI out on the market that you use. I'm going to hit continue. This is a screen that's going to prompt you and your students to download the mobile app. Like I said, please prompt your students to download the mobile app. It's the best interaction that you can have with your students, or your students are going to be able to use it, be able to communicate much better, not just with you, but with their peers. So it's going to prompt them to download the mobile app. They don't have to, of course, but down here, if you want to skip that process for now, you can go ahead and hit, okay, I've got the app. and then it's going to bring us to Pronto. We're going to have the little floating icon. This is the first time I've opened this up today, so it might take a moment to load everything. So apologies. This is the fun part about demoing live. Sometimes you run into these little snags. But as we kind of get started here, and I'm also working from home, so my internet's not as quick as I would like it to be. But I'll just go ahead and just skip over to my other instance of Pronto over here, just to kind of show you where we're at, what it should look like once you get in there. It looks like we're already getting notifications. And I'm actually going to refresh my browser as well really quick. It's the problem with cutting edge technology. Sometimes you bleed a little. I heard that quote and I was like, wow, yeah, that's real. Oh yeah, we've got 8 notifications already. Come on, baby. There we go. Just had to refresh my browser. And as you can see, people are already using it. It's super easy to use. It's not a hard tool to grasp. It's like any other tool that you've used out on the market. That's by design. We wanted this to be a tool that your students could go ahead and jump into and have little to no learning curve. And I just want to point out, you folks are already learning to use the gifts feature. How fun is that? And down here at the bottom, we're starting to see these read receipts. These are read receipts, these little dots down here. You're able to see who has seen this message and what up to what point these people are seeing the message. That's super valuable for you to understand how many students are engaging with your messages, or how active your students are. You can see here, there are little seafoam green dots next to all these names. These are actually people that are online now. I'm loving this. You guys are already seeing how easy this is to use and in real time. I'm going to go ahead and do an @everyone and just welcome you all. So now you should see that you got a nice little banner notification, and that should draw your attention here. That is an @mention, right? That's an easier way for you to get a little bit more of a little bit more direct notification to your class. So you can go ahead and also like if you see, I can hit @mention here, and I can see all the people inside of this group. So if I needed to maybe talk directly to maybe Kaylin here, I can do an @mention to Kaylin. Kaylin just got a direct notification there, and it's an @mention to Kaylin. Also, you can see here, we're already seeing folks using the reply option. This is great for you to be able to address specific messages. You can see here, folks are already typing messages and saying things, and maybe I want to go ahead and reply to a direct thread. I can go ahead and hit reply. This will open up the thread. And so once I've done with this thread, or maybe I've answered the question, I can go ahead and close the thread, and it'll bring it down to the bottom of the thread here in the chat. So what's great about that too is that it's open for everybody else to see. So you can answer maybe a question that was asked, and it'll still be visible to the rest of the class, right? So it's a really great way for you to be able to make sure that all that information is still visible to your classes. You saw there, we also have the ability to add a reaction. Give a thumbs up to Sang-Chi. And I'll go ahead and give a thumbs up to Rollins. And I also really like to show off this feature as well. This is really helpful. On your first day, I always like to do this. I like to go ahead and write out a nice message to everyone, maybe do an @mention, maybe welcome everybody to my course, maybe tell them a little bit about me, let them know how we're going to be using Pronto, maybe let them know where the syllabus is, maybe hyperlink the syllabus for that course. And I can go ahead and forward that message if I'd like. And you can see here, I have the ability to forward that message with the @mention to everyone to all my other courses if I'd like. And you can see I'm only part of one course in this instance, but if I jump over to my other instance, I can give you a better idea of what that looks like here. So I'm telling everybody in this instance really quick, no class tomorrow, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to @mention to everyone. And as I highlight or select the courses that I need to tell everybody this, it's going to highlight. I go ahead and also make any edits that I need to, and I hit send. And that just sent that message to all those other groups with that app mentioned to everyone. So it's really quick for me to get that very vital information, letting everybody know that there's no class tomorrow. And I've seen that get used a lot, right? For a lot of different things. I'm loving this. Down here at the bottom, you might recognize everybody's discovered the GIFs option, the emojis, obviously, and also the little paperclip where you can go ahead and attach any files, documents, and things like that. Also, at any time, I can click on anybody's picture inside of Pronto, including inside of the read receipts, and I can click on them. I'm going to go ahead and click on Sangs because I know he's familiar with Pronto, and it will pull up what we call their avatar card. And this is really valuable to students and also to yourself, where I can see Sang is now active currently. I can see what groups we have in common. We have this one group in common. And this is where I can actually start a direct message with Sang. So I'm going to go ahead and reach out to Sang really quick. Maybe I'm a student and I have a question, and it's maybe a personal question about my grades. This is where I can go ahead and click on that message option. And that takes me out of that big group with everybody. And this puts me in the direct message with just Sang and I. And this is where I can have some of those more personal conversations and just directly between Sang and I. Maybe I can talk about grades. Maybe I can talk about, hey, maybe I have had some family emergencies or whatever it may be. I might be out of class for the next few days, whatever it might be. This is where you can have those conversations in those direct messages. Now that I've had that conversation with Sang, I need to navigate back to my class. Up here in the top left, there are these 3 lines. I'll go ahead and hit that. This is going to open up my drawer. My drawer will have my recents here at the top. Your recents are basically the last anywhere between 2 to 10 groups that you've been recently active in. Then I have here my course here that I was active in here under this category. And the way that we've worked with your instance of Canvas is that we sync with your Canvas instance roughly every 6 hours. So with that integration, we'll pull over all of your courses. Each of your course will get a category like this. And if you have different course sections or anything like that, they will all be given their own groups. So if I'm teaching out of multiple sections in a course, I'll have all of my course groups with their sections here under their category, under the course. And down at the very bottom, I'll have all my direct messages. Inside the drawer, you do have a few options as well. You'll be able to see I have here these 3 dots here. From here, I can mark as read if I don't want to read the message or I just want to mark it as read. I can hide this group if I'd like, if maybe it's a group that I'm not very active in and I just don't want to see it in my drawer as much. I can nickname the group if I'd like. A lot of times these courses are pretty long. They're named pretty long and cumbersome, especially if they're coming from the SIS. I can go ahead and nickname it if I'd like. That will be only for you to see, so your students aren't confused. And I can mute the group if I'd like, if it's being kind of busy. But I'm going to jump back in here. I've covered quite a bit. I think y'all are really grasping the concept here, but I want to pause here for a moment and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, they've been coming in. I've been doing my best to catch up on them. I have one. Actually, I have a couple here. Can you prevent students from chatting with each other privately?
So we can turn that off, but it would be at the account level. I suppose the question is that we can do that, but it would have to be a discussion that would have to be had internally to be able to turn that off where students wouldn't be able to interact with each other. So the way that we have it set up now, though, is that they are only able to interact with their connections, meaning students that they're only able to, connect with students that they're already in courses with. So they can't connect with just some random somebody at Santa Monica. They can only connect with the people that they're already in courses with.
Okay, they had a question. Can you hyperlink to Canvas announcements?
Yes, you can. So just like we do support hyperlinks. So once you have that announcement out, you just grab the link in the URL and you'll just post it down here in the message and just send it out that way.
And we've had this one a few times and it's been answered in chat, but is Pronto active all the time, or is there a way to schedule hours during the day that Pronto is active?
So we don't have active hours yet. It is something that we are working on, but you can turn on do not disturb in your settings, your notification settings. We will cover that here in a moment.
That's it so far.
Okay, so I do see a question here in Pronto. Matt, I don't see my course in Pronto yet. How can I set that up? Good question. Just make sure your course does have to be published and has to have at least one student enrollment. So once your course is published, usually within 24 hours, you should see that course populated in Pronto. And I am, by the way, I am syncing more and more on my backend. So as you do self-enroll in this course, you should start to see Pronto added as soon as you refresh your Canvas page here. Awesome. Are there any other questions? I saw that that chat count just skyrocket.
Yeah, right. Why don't you talk about the difference between do not disturb and actually shutting off Pronto completely?
So do not disturb will just turn off notifications. I don't really understand turning off Pronto completely.
Like, is there an ability to switch it off for like tests or things like that?
Oh, I see. Yeah, we do have a tool, and I'll be sure to cover that here in a moment, how you can actually turn Pronto off for your courses. Yes, it's called the course management tool, and I'll be sure to cover that. Awesome. So good question. If somebody mentions me while I'm offline, does it look different when I log in to Canvas, or is it just a bunch of app mentions while in my class? So good question. Hannah, you should see that app mentions, they will have a, rather than a little, so as I sit here and as people type in, I'll get notifications and there'll be a little gray dot with how many messages are in here. If there's any app mentions in here at everyone or at a mention to yourself or your name, it'll be highlighted in red. So it'll draw your attention a little bit more that way. You'll understand that there are app mentions to you. So I'm going to pause here for questions. I'm going to stop here for questions, and I'm going to continue on with the demo because there's a lot to cover and little time. So we're going to go ahead and talk now. There's a lot of questions about the ability to set up notifications. So that's where we'll go next. So we're going to move out of Canvas here. And the reason why I'm going to do this is just allow us to have a little bit more real estate. I love the Canvas widget. Like I said, it's really slick. It feels like a native part of Canvas. But just because of the limited real estate that we have here, we weren't able to fit all the functionality that we wanted to inside. So here we have this little box with an arrow going outside of it. If I click on that, and I'll show you where that is again. Just right here, right next to the X that closes Pronto out, and the little camera icon, which is our meetings feature, which we'll be covering here after settings, is this little box with the arrow going out of it. This will open up our web app. The web app is where we can access all of our account settings. You can also access this inside the mobile app as well. It's very similar. If you're looking at the mobile app right now, you'll notice it looks very similar to our mobile app and our web app. We have our drawer here with all of our groups. And I apologize, folks. I've got this inside my browser. I need to clear my cache and cookies. Sometimes it just doubles up my groups. Pay no attention to that. I just need to clear my cache. It's something with my browser, and it's just my browser for some reason. Anyway, so you'll see here, we have inside the drawer, there's a little settings cog here. If I click on that, this will bring me to this screen. This is where I can add a photo if I'd like here. This is where I can see my name. By the way, your name is just being pulled from your preferred name inside of Canvas. So if you ever want to change your name inside of Pronto, just update your preferred name inside of Canvas. When we sync with your Canvas instance, it will then update in Pronto.
Hi, John. It's Barbara Browning from Santa Monica College.
Sorry, I'll just go ahead and mute somebody there. And if you'll see here at the very first line here, here's your do not disturb option. So this is where maybe at the end of the night, you're done. You don't want to chat with anybody anymore. You're going to go ahead and come here and just get do not disturb. We give you a few options. You can do not disturb between 20 minutes and 24 hours, Or in my case, I went on vacation last week. I just turned it off until I turned it back on. Then the following week I got back. So I'm going to go ahead and also show you really quickly the notification preferences here as well. So you can see here, I have my notification preferences set to my default because I just signed in to all messages, meaning I'm getting now messages inside this Pronto account for anybody that's sending a message. If I want to go ahead and just cut the noise a bit, I can go ahead and just select only mentions. That means if somebody is sending a message inside of Pronto to just somebody or just somebody in the group, I'm not going to be notified about it. But if somebody says an at mention to me or at everyone inside the group, I will get a notification. So there is that option there. Then the third option is nothing, which is basically do not disturb. Some additional notifications is notification reactions. So what that is basically you can turn off the ability if you hear somebody or somebody gives you a thumbs up on one of your messages, you're not going to get notified about that. Also within the browser, you can turn off the little ping that goes off whenever somebody sends you a message or a notification that way. Group overrides. This is a way for you to be able to turn on a specific group override for a group. For example, if I know I have a course that's coming up and testing season's coming up and I want to be more available inside of that group, I can turn on a group override for that specific group. So I want to turn on, I want to be notified for every single message just for this group. And after the testing is done, and I want to go ahead and turn it off, I just hit this X there and it should go away. Any questions about notifications? I kind of flew through that because we're running a bit short on time. Winston, I'm sure you're typing, but were there any questions that would probably be easier to answer?
I haven't seen anything about notifications. Will you show them the green plus sign there in the bottom left to show where the direct messaging is?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Thank
just like inside of Pronto groups where I can click on somebody's avatar and I can hit the option to send them a direct message. If I'm having trouble or I know there's somebody that I want to send a direct message to right away, and I apologize, my computer is just running super slow right now, I can actually send a direct message by clicking on the action menu. And you see there's a few other options here that I can access, but from here I can actually hit direct message and I can search for that individual that I want to send a direct message to. Once I find that person, trying to find you, Christine. There you are. You've got a couple of different users, I know that. I can click on the individual and now I can start that private chat or that direct message with just Christine and I. You can also create Pronto native groups here, which is a really easy way for you to be able to create a group that's not created through the Canvas integration. We see that get used all the time in student-led groups or study groups and things like that, or even department groups. Or even special interest groups, things like, chess club, stuff like that, video games. Great, any questions there? Awesome. So now I'm going to show off our awesome meetings functionality. So meetings is a great way for you to be able to go live inside of your group and be able to have a conversation with all of your students. With this size of a group, we'll see how it goes because it's a pretty large group, but I'm excited to give it a shot. But we never position ourselves to replace Zoom just because there are some limitations, which I'll be covering here in a moment. But what I'd like to explain is that our meetings functionality is a great way to fill in the gaps. So maybe I'm explaining a concept, it's not getting through my content inside of Canvas is not very clear for some odd reason. I can go ahead and say to this group, hey, I'm going to go live really quick. And I'll hit this little camera icon here. It's going to ask how I'd like to start this meeting. And now everybody inside of this group, you should now be getting a notification, whether it's on web or within Canvas or within your mobile app, that we're going live. Now, go ahead and allow. Now, some of the limitations that we have here is that unlike Zoom, which is great for these synchronous sessions, Pronto, like I said, fills in the gaps a little bit better. We only can have about 10 people we can only have 10 people chatting at a time with each other in a one-on-one environment. Sorry, like this, chatting with each other, but it is a round robin. So if we have 10 people in here chatting with each other, somebody drops out, somebody can pop back in and continue the conversation. However, we can have up to 400 people observing. So you can see here we have all the observers watching, and y'all can actually join the conversation by chatting in here. So a lot of times, George mentioned that he's at Glendale Community College. One of our biggest champions is Fabiola Torres. She uses this to interact with all of her students all the time. In fact, she loves using Pronto meetings because it's very equitable, it's very easy to use, and it takes up way less bandwidth than Zoom. So a lot of our students can actually use, public Wi-Fi and things like that on their mobile devices and still be able to join the conversation. So and also, like I said, they can also join the conversation that way as well. Yeah, great. This is great for small student groups, like you mentioned before. Also, in this case, like I mentioned, I was trying to explain a concept. It wasn't getting through very well. I can go ahead and hit record. I can say something like, hey, everybody, I apologize, I wasn't clear on that. Here's the situation. Here's the concept. I can explain a little better. Feel free to ask questions or join in. I'll be here for the next few minutes. I can explain that a little bit more if I'd like, and I'll go ahead and end the recording. And that's done. I can also share my screen. And what's also really cool about this screen sharing system that Pronto does that Zoom cannot is we actually have the ability for multiple screen shares. So if any of you want to join and share your screen to show it off a little bit, feel free. But you can have multiple people sharing their screen at a time. And it's just a matter of pinning and unpinning which screen you want to take up the majority of the real estate. We use this all the time internally for collaboration. It's no longer, hey, can you unshare your screen or can I share my screen? It's just a matter of pinning and unpinning which screen we want to take up this majority of the real estate. Pretty slick. Also, something that's really great about Pronto, since it is a closed system, we don't have to worry about links. You don't have to worry about invitations or anything like that. So if you ever want to leave the conversation and it's going really well, you don't want to end it, you can just leave. You don't have to end it. People can still have that conversation. And then if you want to join back in, wait for my computer to catch up. I'll just click this blue banner here. But I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting for everyone. The meeting's now ended. We can see here all the people that viewed the meeting or participated. And once that meeting is done rendering to the cloud, we'll have that replay button here. And looks like it's still rendering. Apologies, folks. But that is our meetings functionality. John, did you have a question?
Well, since we're running close on time, I just wanted to ask really quickly about tasks and if there was any integration between the tasks which have a date on them and the Canvas calendar.
Not at this time. That's, believe it or not, integrating with the Canvas calendar, it's a lot of API stuff. So we don't have that yet, but we do wish to have a little bit more integration with that down the road. But great question though.
And then I guess the other question was, are the students able to create their own groups? And if so, do we have any control over maybe shutting them off during lecture time? So yes, students can create their own groups if they're ever turning them off during lecture time. So you can turn off your groups, right? But turning off their groups during lecture time or turning off their groups during testing time, that is something that you don't have control over. However, if there's ever a situation where you need us to pull transcripts, we do give you that oversight back and we can do that for you. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Last thing I want to cover is our course management tool. This is the tool that I mentioned before. This is how you can turn Pronto on and off for a lot of your courses. And so the way that you turn Pronto on and off for your courses, and I do need to go to it will be a specific link. This is a new tool, and so it's only available through a specific link for Santa Monica. I believe it's smc.canvas.pronto.io. Christine or Ashley or Tamara, I believe I shared that with you before, and I can go ahead and share it with you again. Winston, if you wouldn't mind sharing that in the chat so everybody has that available. It's just smc.canvas.pronto.io. If you want to go ahead and bookmark that, I strongly encourage you to do so. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. But once you have that link, it'll bring you to this screen. We're going to log in with Canvas. It's going to ask me to carry over my token from Canvas. This is just going to make sure that this is my name. This is who I am. I'll hit authorize. And this is going to bring over all of my courses that I have enabled or disabled, that basically available with Pronto. So you can see here, I have one disabled and all of my other courses. And let's say it's Biology 1010. We're coming up on testing season. I need to turn it off. I need to turn Pronto off for that course. I can come here, click on it. I can turn off individual sections if I'd like. As you can see here, this is Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. I can turn off Tuesday, Thursday if I'd like, and still let Monday, Wednesday be available. Or I can just hit this big red disable Pronto. And I apologize for my internet speed. It's usually much quicker. And that's that. It's very quick. There, and now when I come back to my main course menu, you can see I have my Biology 1010 course has now been disabled. If I want to turn it back on, let's say testing is over, I'll just click on it. I only have one option now. I just hit enable. And now it is now available to the course again. Something I also like to point out here, you have the availability to actually push manual syncs. So as I mentioned before, we sync with your instance of Canvas every 6 hours, roughly 4 times a day. So if you have any students or anything like that, new enrollments, or maybe you move some students in and out, and you need to reflect those changes immediately and you can't wait till the next sync cycle, you can use this tool to push a manual sync immediately right here. I'll just hit sync now. We ask that you give us 30 minutes, but usually it's way more instantaneous than that. You'll see that here. It's done. So now that student will now be reflected and will be now enrolled or removed from that course, depending on how it's reflected in Canvas. We've covered a lot. I want to go ahead and pause here and allow for some questions and answers. We've got about 3 minutes, but I'm happy to stay a little bit longer if you'd like and answer any other questions that you might have.
If I've missed your question, will you just copy and paste it at the bottom in the chat? I've had a question, is there a whiteboard ability like Zoom?
So you can do it through a third-party app. If the browser can recognize it, right? If you can plug it in, the browser can recognize it because our video app is through the browser, you can use it. So it's just a matter of, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Oop. If it's an external tool or a camera or something like that, if the browser can recognize it, you can share it. So you can do it via share a screen, right? So I don't know if you can see this. Sometimes Zoom captures it or not. So if you can capture it through here, through an application here, you can share it that way. Or you can do it through, if you have an external camera or something like that. Okay. Come on. Any other questions? Sorry, Winston, does that answer the question?
Yeah, you're able to share your screen, and if you have a third party, then you can show a whiteboard function.
Yeah, if it's an application that you can mimic, yes, but we don't have anything built into our application that can do that now. Yes, Nancy.
I'm sorry if I'm being a little bit slow on this. I'm still not understanding for the students. Do we need to invite them? Is it automatic? If I sent them a message now because my course is published and it's in there, they should receive it?
Yes, correct. Yeah, so that's the nice thing. All the provisioning for all of your students and things like that in all your groups is already, as long as it's been published and you can see it inside of Pronto, it's already been done through the integration.
Okay, so I can do a test message to them before class starts and we're all good as long as I'm published.
Yep.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, no
can
problem.
I think, if I may, I don't know, Tamara, is this correct or not? Because students don't have access to Canvas until the
Right.
first day, they won't have access to Pronto either.
Correct.
Because it's tied to Canvas. So even if you send something out, they can't even log on right now because they can't get into Canvas right now.
They can get into Canvas, just not in your course.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So they can't, yeah.
Does the Pronto then exist inside the course or does it exist inside a Canvas out like for us, it's on the outside of any individual course?
It
right?
is, but it's on the outside on the global navigation, but basically like when you open up your Canvas and you open up that particular class section, it will automatically switch to that class if you're using your computer, and or laptop, and it'll just be on, and it's on for all your classes unless you're going to turn it off through that management site.
Got it, thank you.
I have a good question from Steph here. This might have been answered, but as instructors, can we see the private messages students send to each other?
So great question. No, but as I mentioned before, if there's ever, just due to privacy, you're not able to get that insight if there's a direct message between students, right? That's like almost like reading their emails. But if there is ever a situation where you think there is a question of academic integrity or a situation where we need to pull transcripts, we can always provide that. So I've provided transcripts before in the past, and we're happy to do that. We just have to escalate it through your admins and we can provide those. I will say, out of all the times I've provided transcripts, there's only been one occasion where there's ever been an issue of academic integrity that's ever happened through Pronto. Most of the time cheating, a lot of times it's 2021. Cheating will happen or academic integrity issues will happen outside of any school sanctioned tools. So it's just how it works.
But I mean, there's also an opportunity for creepy stuff going on. Can they block each other?
Yes, if you remember, if I click on anyone's avatar at any time, you have the ability to block any user here.
Sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
No worries. Great question, though. I think student privacy is very serious in today's day and age. And so, yeah, we allow students to be able to block whoever they need to block in any of those situations. Any other questions? Where I know we're a couple minutes over time, I want to respect everybody's time, and so we can start wrapping up here. Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. I hope this was helpful. Really appreciate your time. I'll go and stop sharing. But thank you, everybody who joined. This has been very helpful. Christine, Tamara, Ashley, thanks for setting up that course. I think that was awesome to be able to get some hands-on stuff going there. I think that was great. Also saying thanks so much for joining. Thank you so much, George. George, are you teaching at Glendale this quarter or this semester?
Yes, I'll be still teaching at GCC and SMC for the fall.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do have a question, Matt.
Yeah.
It might have gotten lost in the chat transcripts, Would it be possible for a future update, maybe in a semester or two, to give the instructor on Pronto a little bit more functionality? I did have one or two out of all of the emails I get for help on Pronto and answering questions. I've gotten maybe one or two unfortunate incidences where it probably would have been better if the instructor had the capability to, I don't know, tweak some access to some students had in
Mhm.
terms of messaging or turning off GIFs or something else.
I gotcha.
Because I know at the moment, the closest thing is with permissions. If you go into the settings, and permissions is just for video recording.
Yeah.
But maybe individually turning off like GIF usage or chat usage or something else. Maybe just for a future update.
Yeah, no, that's something that we're looking more and more into. Actually, it's something like as we grow, it's like those unfortunate growing pains that we're like going into.
Yeah.
And I just did a huge training with a major K-12 district. And so, yeah, it's something that we're looking more into, actually.
I would imagine it would be tough for like secondary school, because right there,
Oh,
you
oh
know,
my God. Yeah.
the bullying and other things that can happen is just,
Yeah.